Play your part in building this channel by subscribing and liking. The Hitchhikers Haunting. It was a moonless night when I found myself driving down a desolate highway. The darkness seemed to swallow everything around me. The only source of light was my car's headlights, casting eerie shadows on the trees that lined the road. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I tried to brush it off as mere imagination. As I continued down the road, I noticed a figure up ahead, a hitchhiker. I debated whether to stop or not, but my sympathy got the best of me. I pulled over and offered a ride. The hitchhiker had a gaunt face and wore tattered clothes that seemed out of place in the modern world. He got in, his presence sending a wave of discomfort through me. He thanked me with a chilling smile, and we drove on in silence. Minutes turned into an eternity as I felt his gaze on me, his eyes reflecting the faint glow of the dashboard. After what felt like an eternity, he suddenly spoke. His voice was hollow, sending a shiver down my spine. He recounted stories of accidents on this very road, tales of souls lost to the darkness. My heart raced as his words grew more ominous. As I stole a glance at him, I saw his face morph into something ghastly. His skin seemed to peel, revealing a skeletal visage beneath. I screamed and swerved the car, my pulse racing. But when I looked back, the seat was empty. I sped away from that cursed spot, my mind in a frenzy. The rest of the drive was a blur, and I finally reached a gas station where I frantically shared my ordeal. The attendant listened, his face pale. He told me that the stretch of road was infamous for accidents and ghostly sightings. I left the gas station, my mind forever haunted by the hitchhiker's ghostly grin. The Vanishing Town. Driving through the countryside on a misty night, I felt a sense of unease settle over me. The fog was so thick that it obscured everything beyond a few feet. My headlights barely made a dent in the murky wall of mist. I questioned the wisdom of continuing. There were no turnoffs or exits in sight. Suddenly, out of the haze, I saw the faint outline of a town. Relieved, I followed the road into the eerie settlement. The houses were decrepit, their windows shattered, and the air was suffused with an unsettling silence. It felt like a town forgotten by time itself. I parked the car and stepped out, my footsteps echoing through the desolate streets. As I wandered, an oppressive feeling of being watched settled upon me. The fog seemed to twist and writhe, taking on shapes that shouldn't exist. I stumbled upon an old well, its dark depths seemingly bottomless. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement. I turned to find shadowy figures darting between the buildings, whispering in voices too distant to understand. Panic gripped me, and I raced back to my car. But when I turned around, the town had vanished. Not a trace remained, only the thick fog. My heart pounding, I floored the gas pedal and sped away. Hours later, I reached the nearest town and recounted my experience to the locals. Their faces turned grave as they spoke of a town that had disappeared decades ago, consumed by a mysterious fog that trapped lost souls for eternity. I could never shake off the feeling of being watched, even as I left that forsaken place far behind. The Phantom Pursuer. Driving along a winding mountain road on a moonlit night, I marveled at the serene beauty of the landscape. The tall trees cast elongated shadows, and the moon illuminated the path ahead. Yet a subtle unease gnawed at me, as if an invisible presence rode with me in the car. As I took a sharp turn, I glimpsed a figure in the rearview mirror. A woman, draped in a white gown, stood in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes, heart racing. But there was no impact. Trembling, I got out to check, but the road was empty. I brushed it off as a trick of the light and continued on my way. But each time I stole a glance in the mirror, the woman was there, growing closer with every glance. Fear tightened its grip on me, urging me to speed up. No matter how fast I drove, she remained, her white gown billowing in the wind. Desperation pushed me to call the police, my voice trembling as I explained the bizarre situation. They assured me they'd send someone to investigate. Encouraged, I drove on, hoping for safety in numbers. But when the police car finally arrived, they found no trace of the woman. As the officer spoke to me, a cold hand gripped my shoulder. I froze, slowly turning to see the woman's pale face inches from mine, her eyes hollow voids. With a blood-curdling scream, I stumbled back and she vanished into thin air. The officer, white-faced, told me stories of an accident years ago, where a woman had lost her life on this very road. I drove away from that cursed place, her phantom image forever imprinted in my mind's eye. The memory of her icy touch haunted me, a reminder that some spirits never find rest.